The grand chamber of the Galactic Assembly sparkled with the light of 1,000 stars, casting shimmering patterns across the polished marble floors. High King Daho's ornate robes rustled as he moved across the speaker's platform, each step deliberate and proud. His thin face, marked by years of ruling the vast stellar empire, held an expression of pure contempt. Earth's ambassador, Sunma, sat in the lower tier of the assembly, her face a mask of practiced calm. Around her, representatives from hundreds of alien worlds filled the massive amphitheater, their varied forms creating a living tapestry of galactic diversity. "My fellow leaders," Daho began, his voice carrying clear and sharp through the chamber. "Today I must address a matter that has become something of an amusement among our great civilizations." He paused, his lips curling into a mocking smile. "The application of Earth to join our galactic assembly." Quiet laughter rippled through the chamber. Sun Mai noticed several of the alien delegates exchanging knowing looks. A large, purple-skinned being 3 rows behind her made a sound like grinding stones, their species version of a chuckle. "Let us examine the facts," Daho continued, touching a control panel. A hologram of Earth appeared above the chamber floor, rotating slowly. This insignificant blue dot, third planet from a mundane yellow star, has barely managed to reach its own moon. Their most advanced spacecraft can hardly achieve the speed of light, while our children's toys move faster. More laughter filled the chamber, louder this time. Daho's smile widened as he gestured dramatically at the hologram. "They burn fossil fuels for energy. Their cities are primitive concrete structures. Their military vessels still float on water." He shook his head in theatrical disbelief. "And yet they dare to petition for membership among the stars. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a facility unknown to all but a select few humans," Admiral Park watched the transmission on a massive screen. Around her, dozens of officers and technicians maintained their posts, monitoring systems that would have made King Daho choke on his words of mockery. "Their technology is so primitive," Daho was saying, "that they still use radio waves for communication." Radio waves. He threw his hands up in apparent exasperation. "My personal translator has more computing power than their entire planet's combined networks." The Admiral's lips curved into a small smile as she watched a different set of screens. They showed vast underground chambers where sleek spacecraft sat ready, their hulls gleaming with technology that would make the stellar empire's best ships look like ancient relics. Another monitor displayed the asteroid belt, where automated factories had been quietly producing advanced weapons and ships for decades. Back in the assembly, Sun Li maintained her diplomatic poker face as Daho continued his performance. "Perhaps in another 1,000 years," he said, "they might be ready to join us. But now, they are children playing with sticks in the mud, dreaming of the stars." "Admiral." A young officer approached Park's station, tablet in hand. "The latest reports from Deep Station 9. Production of quantum drives has exceeded targets by 15%. Park nodded, her eyes still fixed on Daho's sneering face. "Excellent. Keep all systems in shadow protocol. Let them laugh a little longer." In the chamber, Daho was building to his conclusion. "I move that Earth's petition be denied, and that they be barred from reapplying for no less than 500 years. Perhaps by then, they will have learned to make proper spacecraft." The chamber erupted in laughter and applause. Sun Mai stood, bowed formally to the assembly, and spoke her only words of the session. "Earth thanks the assembly for its consideration." Her voice betrayed no emotion, no hint of the truth she carried. As she left the chamber, walking past delegates who barely tried to hide their amusement, her secure communicator vibrated once. The message was simple: "Shadow Fleet now at 97% readiness. Operation Dawn approved." Daho watched her leave, satisfaction written across his features. He had no way of knowing that his mockery had just sealed his empire's fate. He couldn't know that Earth's primitive radio transmissions were a carefully crafted facade, or that the planet's apparent technological backwardness was the result of decades of meticulous deception. Deep in her underwater command center, Admiral Park opened a secure channel to all hidden facilities. "The game continues as planned," she said simply. "Maintain protocol until final authorization." On screens around her, the true face of Earth's military might hummed with quiet power. Quantum computers processed data at speeds that would make Daho's boasts seem childish. Ships with capabilities far beyond anything the stellar empire possessed waited in the shadows of distant moons and asteroids. The Admiral looked one final time at Daho's image, frozen in mid-laugh on her screen. "Laugh all you can, Your Highness," she whispered. "The joke's about to take an interesting turn." In orbit above Earth, civilian satellites continued their predictable paths, broadcasting their primitive radio signals. Deep beneath them, humanity's real power grew stronger by the day, waiting for the perfect moment to show the galaxy that appearances could be deceiving. The countdown to humanity's revenge had begun, and not a single alien in that great assembly hall had any idea what was coming. Commander Han's footsteps echoed through the vast underground chamber as she walked along the observation deck of Facility Deep 7. Through the reinforced windows, she could see the massive form of the TSS Dauntless, Earth's most advanced stealth destroyer. The ship's dark hull seemed to drink in the light, its surface rippling with adaptive camouflage technology that made it nearly invisible to all known detection systems. 70 years of secrecy had led to this moment. While the world above carried on with its seemingly primitive space program, launching chemical rockets and maintaining a show of technological limitation, facilities like Deep 7 had been pushing the boundaries of human achievement. "Engineering reports all systems ready for final checks, Commander," Lieutenant Kim reported, handing over a data tablet. The young officer's eyes kept drifting to the massive ship below. Even after 3 years of working in the facility, the sight still filled him with awe. The Dauntless was just one of hundreds of ships being built in secret facilities around the world. Deep 7, carved into the heart of a mountain and protected by layers of stealth technology, was home to 3 such vessels. Similar shipyards existed beneath the Pacific Ocean, inside hollowed-out asteroids, and in underground bases spanning every continent. Commander Han studied the readouts on her tablet. The quantum drive's power signature exceeded all previous benchmarks, promising faster-than-light travel capabilities that would make the Stellar Empire's best ships look like rowboats. The shield systems, based on technology reverse-engineered from a crashed alien ship 70 years ago, were operating at 120% of projected capacity. "Begin final system checks," Han ordered, her voice carrying across the control room. Dozens of technicians moved with practiced efficiency, their hands flying over holographic controls. The air hummed with the sound of powerful machinery as the Dauntless came fully online. Deep 7's chief engineer, Dr. Moon, approached with a proud smile on his face. "The stealth systems are performing better than we hoped, Commander. In our last test, even our own most advanced sensors couldn't detect her at half a kilometer." The facility's lights dimmed briefly as the Dauntless powered up its main systems. Through the window, Han watched as sections of the ship's hull shifted and changed, matching the patterns of light and shadow around it. The effect was eerie, like watching a piece of reality decide to simply step sideways and vanish. "What's the status on the weapon systems?" Han asked, turning to face the tactical officer's station. "All weapons show green, Commander," came the response. "Quantum torpedoes are loaded and primed. Point defense grid is operational. The new plasma cannon array is functioning within expected parameters." A soft chime from her tablet indicated an incoming priority message. Admiral Park's face appeared on the screen, her expression serious. "Commander, how soon can the Dauntless be ready for deployment?" Han glanced at the status displays around her. "Final checks will be complete in 3 hours, Admiral. After that, we can launch on your order." "Good. The Stellar Empire's mockery at the assembly has given us the perfect cover. They're so convinced of our technological inferiority that their border patrols are practically sleeping at their posts." Through another window, Han could see teams of workers moving around the Dauntless's sister ship, the TSS Shadowblade, still under construction but nearly complete. Similar scenes were playing out in secret facilities all around Earth and throughout the solar system. Quantum drive reaching full power, announced the engineering station. The deck hummed beneath their feet as the massive engines came online. Shield generators spinning up to combat readiness. Dr. Moon checked his own readings and nodded with satisfaction. 7 decades of preparation, Commander. Sometimes I still can't believe we managed to keep it all hidden. It hadn't been easy. The deception had required the cooperation of every major government on Earth, careful manipulation of public information, and technology so advanced it could mask its own existence. While the world's attention focused on traditional space programs and their carefully orchestrated displays of limited capability, humanity's real space force had grown in secret. Begin final diagnostic sequence, Han ordered. The control room erupted in activity as technicians ran through their checklists. On the main screen, system after system reported ready status. A low, almost musical tone filled the air as the Dauntless's quantum core achieved stable operation. The massive ship seemed to pulse with power, its hull shimmering as active camouflage systems cycled through their tests. All systems nominal, Commander, Lieutenant Kim reported. The Dauntless is ready for her first real flight. Han allowed herself a small smile as she looked at the magnificent ship below. Soon, very soon, the Stellar Empire would learn the true cost of their arrogance. Earth's hidden fleet would emerge from the shadows, and the galaxy would never be the same. Send word to Admiral Park, she ordered. Tell her the Dauntless is ready to join the fleet. It's time to show the galaxy what humanity has been hiding all these years. As the message was sent, Han thought of High King Daho's mocking words at the assembly. He would learn, as would all the others who had laughed at Earth, that appearances could be deceiving. The joke, as they would soon discover, had been on them all along. The morning shift at Proxima B's military base started like any other. General Tai sat in his command chair, sipping a warm drink while reviewing routine patrol reports. The massive defense installation, pride of the Stellar Empire's border forces, hummed with its usual activity. Security satellites maintained their endless watch over the surrounding space, their sensors calibrated to detect any approaching vessel. None of those sensors registered the arrival of Earth's fleet. The first sign that something was wrong came when the base's primary communication array simply ceased to exist. One moment it stood proudly against the alien sky. The next, it vanished in a flash of silent light. General Tay's drink slipped from his fingers as alarms began screaming across every console in the command center. Multiple ships detected, shouted the sensor officer, his voice cracking with panic. They're everywhere. Above the base, Admiral Park stood on the bridge of the TSS Thunderbird, watching as her fleet took position with practiced precision. Dozens of Earth's most advanced warships, previously invisible to the Empire's detection systems, shimmered into view as they powered up their weapons. All ships report ready, Admiral, tactical officer announced. Target locks confirmed on all primary objectives. Park nodded once. Begin the operation. The Thunderbird's main guns opened fire, followed by the rest of the fleet. Precision strikes reduced the base's defensive shield generators to molten slag before they could even be activated. Quantum torpedoes, technology the Empire had thought impossible for humans to possess, streaked through the morning sky. In his command center, General Tai watched in horror as his mighty base crumbled around him. "Get me a channel to the capital," he shouted. "We need reinforcements. We need—" His words cut off as the command center's power failed. Through the armored windows, he could see Earth's ships moving through his defenses like ghosts, their weapons striking with surgical precision. They weren't destroying everything. They were systematically dismantling the base's ability to fight back. On the Imperial capital world, High King Daho's morning meditation was interrupted by frantic pounding on his chamber doors. "Enter," he barked, annoyed at the disturbance. Minister Jin burst into the room, his face pale. "Your Majesty, we're under attack. The humans, they've destroyed Proxima Base." "What?" Daho stood so quickly his meditation cushion toppled over. "That's impossible. Their ships can barely reach their own moon. This must be some kind of mistake." But even as he spoke, more reports flooded in. The Beta Centauri defense station, gone. The fleet base at Wolf 359, completely neutralized. The supposedly impregnable fortress protecting the Sirius trade routes, captured intact. "Show me," the king demanded. The chamber's holographic displays came to life, showing footage from the attacks. Daho watched in growing horror as sleek, dark ships of clearly human design moved through his empire's defenses, as if they weren't even there. Back at Proxima B, Admiral Park directed the final phases of the assault. "Status report," she commanded. "Base defenses neutralized, Admiral. Minimal casualties as ordered. Their troops are surrendering in groups. We've secured their weapon stockpiles and quantum communication arrays." Park allowed herself a small smile. "Send the message to Earth Command. Phase 1 complete. Begin preparation for Phase 2. General Ta stood with his hands raised, watching Earth Marines secure his command center. Their armor was unlike anything he'd ever seen, making them look like living shadows as they moved efficiently through the room. "But how?" he finally asked one of his captors. "You're supposed to be primitive. You're supposed to be centuries behind us." The Marine just shrugged. "Maybe you shouldn't believe everything you're told." In the capital, Daho's rage echoed through the palace halls. "How dare they? How dare these primitives attack us? Launch the home fleet. Every ship we have. I want these humans." "Your Majesty," Minister Jin interrupted, his voice shaking. "We've lost contact with the home fleet. All of it. The humans. They're already here." As if to punctuate his words, the capital's defensive screens flickered and died. In the sky above, hundreds of human warships shimmered into view, their weapons primed and ready. Admiral Park's voice echoed through every communication device in the capital. "High King Daho, this is Admiral Park of the Earth Defense Fleet. You mocked our primitive technology. You laughed at our limited capabilities. Now we offer you one chance to surrender. Choose wisely." Daho stared at the ships through his palace windows. Ships that shouldn't exist, technology that humans shouldn't have. All his mockery, all his certainty of human inferiority, crumbled like dust in his hands. The dawn of a new era had arrived, heralded not by the primitive rockets the Empire had mocked, but by the silent, deadly ships of Earth's hidden fleet. The joke, as billions across the Empire were realizing, had been on them all along. The Imperial War Room buzzed with frantic activity as High King Daho paced before the massive holographic display. 10,000 ships, the combined might of the stellar Empire's remaining fleets, gathered at predetermined rally points. Their formation filled the space between stars, a sight that had always filled him with pride. Now, that pride was tinged with desperation. Minister Jin watched his king with growing concern. The past week had seen the loss of their most crucial military installations, and still they knew almost nothing about Earth's true capabilities. "Your Majesty," he said carefully, "perhaps we should consider a different approach. We could open diplomatic channels." Silence. Daho's voice cracked like a whip across the war room. "I will not negotiate with primitives who dare to attack us. I will not be made a fool of by some backwater species." Jin bowed his head, but persisted. "My king, we've lost contact with every base they've targeted. Our best detection systems can't track their ships. We don't even know how they're managing to. Then we will crush them with numbers." Daho slammed his fist on the command table. "Launch the attack. All ships, all formations. Let's see how their stealth technology handles 10,000 warships." Across space, Earth's fleet commanders watched the Empire's forces gather. Captain Song, aboard the TSS Vigilant, studied the enemy formations with experienced eyes. "They're moving exactly as predicted," she commented to her tactical officer. Admiral Park's analysis was perfect. The Imperial fleet surged forward, their quantum drives lighting up space like 1,000 new stars. It was an awesome display of force, enough firepower to reduce entire solar systems to ash. But as they approached Earth's defensive positions, something strange began to happen. Commander Lee, leading the stealth destroyer group, gave the order they'd been waiting for. "Execute pattern shadow. Let's show them why quality beats quantity." Earth's ships, previously invisible to Imperial sensors, began appearing and disappearing at will, striking from impossible angles. The Imperial fleet's neat formations dissolved into chaos as they tried to target enemies they couldn't properly track. "Impossible," screamed an Imperial commander as his squadron's ships exploded one by one. "They're inside our formation." How did they get inside our formation? The answer, had they known it, lay in decades of studying Imperial tactics and technology. Earth's ships didn't just have better stealth systems, they had been specifically designed to exploit every weakness in the Empire's defenses. High King Daho watched in growing horror as his mighty fleet was systematically torn apart. Earth's ships moved like ghost dancers through his formations, their weapons striking with devastating precision. "Where are their supply lines?" he demanded. "They must have support bases. Find them." But Earth's fleet operated on principles the Empire had never considered. Their quantum drives were more efficient, their weapons more precise, their tactical systems more advanced. Each Earth ship could operate independently for months, making them impossible to track or predict. Captain Song's voice crackled across the secure channel. "All units, execute Phase 3. Let's tighten the noose." Earth's fleet began a complex series of maneuvers that looked like chaos, but was actually a carefully choreographed dance. Imperial ships found themselves herded into killing zones, their escape routes cut off by enemies they couldn't detect until it was too late. "My king," Minister Jin's voice shook as he read the casualty reports. "We've lost 3,000 ships. Our formations are breaking apart. We have to." "No." Daho's face had lost all color, but his pride remained unbroken. "Continue the attack. Push forward. They can't possibly maintain this level of combat effectiveness." But they could, and they did. Commander Lee's stealth destroyers slipped through the Imperial fleet's defensive screens like sharks through a school of fish. Captain Song's battle group systematically disabled the Empire's command and control ships, leaving entire squadrons leaderless and confused. In Earth's command center, Admiral Park watched the battle unfold. "Send the message," she ordered. "One last chance for them to surrender before we move to Phase 4. The message reached Daho's war room in perfect Imperial standard. "Your fleet is in ruins. Your tactics are known to us. Surrender now, and save the lives of your remaining crews." Minister Jin stepped forward again, his voice quiet but firm. "My king, please, we must consider." "Never." Daho's voice cracked with fury and fear. "Continue the attack. All ships, press forward. We are the Stellar Empire. We will not bow to primitives." But even as he spoke, another 1,000 Imperial ships vanished from the tactical display, their crews evacuated to safety by Earth's precision targeting systems. The mighty Imperial fleet, pride of 1,000 worlds, was being dismantled with surgical precision by an enemy they had fatally underestimated. Captain Song's voice carried a note of satisfaction as she reported, "Phase 3 complete, Admiral. The Imperial fleet is effectively neutralized. Shall we proceed with Phase 4? Above the Imperial capital, Earth's ships appeared in perfect formation, their weapons trained on the palace itself. The message was clear. The Empire's military might had failed. Now only the king's pride stood between peace and complete defeat. Minister Jin looked at his king, seeing not the mighty ruler of the Stellar Empire, but a man whose arrogance had led them to disaster. The lesson was expensive, but clear. Appearances could be deceiving, and mockery was a poor substitute for wisdom. The liberation of New Eden marked the beginning of Earth's great push into Imperial territory. Admiral Park stood on the bridge of the TSS Thunderbird, watching as Earth's ships systematically disabled the Imperial defense platforms surrounding the occupied planet. Below, millions of beings who had lived under Imperial rule for generations watched the sky with growing hope. "Another garrison has surrendered, Admiral," reported her communications officer. "They're requesting terms." Park nodded, maintaining the same policy that had worked so well on 6 other worlds. "Standard procedures. Guarantee their safety if they stand down. No reprisals against those who surrender peacefully." Across the sector, Earth's fleets moved with precision and purpose. Unlike the Empire's brutal conquest tactics, humanity's approach focused on minimal casualties and maximum protection for civilian populations. Word spread quickly through the subjugated worlds. The humans were not conquerors, but liberators. On the Imperial capital world, High King Daho received the reports with growing dread. Minister Jin stood before him, his usual calm demeanor strained as he delivered the latest news. "We've lost contact with the Centauri sector," Jin reported, his voice tight. "Admiral Kim's fleet was completely destroyed. The humans, they fight like nothing we've ever seen. They're not just winning battles, they're winning hearts." Daho's face, once radiating arrogant confidence, now showed the strain of successive defeats. "How?" he demanded, though the question seemed directed more at himself than his minister. "How can they be so advanced, so organized?" The answer, had he known it, lay in decades of careful preparation and a fundamental misunderstanding of human nature. While the Empire had mocked Earth's apparent technological limitations, humanity had built not just a fleet, but a comprehensive strategy for dismantling Imperial power. On the planet Helios Prime, Commander Lee coordinated with local resistance fighters who had been waiting years for this moment. Earth's ships provided cover as the planet's population rose up against their Imperial overlords. The garrison, faced with attacks from both space and ground, surrendered within hours. "This is Commander Lee of the Earth Defense Fleet," she broadcast on all frequencies. "To all Imperial forces in this sector, we offer you the same choice. Surrender honorably, and you will be treated with dignity. Resist, and you will be defeated." More worlds joined the liberation every day. Species that had suffered under Imperial rule for generations found themselves free to determine their own destiny. Earth's policy of immediate self-governance for liberated worlds created a cascade effect. Each freed planet became a willing ally in the campaign against the Empire. "The Proxima sector has fallen," Minister Jin continued his report. "The Sirius defense line has collapsed. Admiral Park's fleet moves unopposed through systems that took us centuries to conquer." Daho slumped in his throne, the weight of impending defeat visible in his posture. "What of our allies? Surely the other powers will not stand by and watch us fall." But the other galactic powers, those who had joined in mocking Earth at the assembly, now stayed carefully neutral. They had seen what happened to the Empire's fleets, watched as humanity's primitive forces systematically dismantled the most powerful military in known space. Admiral Park's voice reached across the stars, broadcasting on all frequencies. "To all peoples living under Imperial rule, Earth extends its hand in friendship. We offer protection, respect, and the right to choose your own path. The age of empire is ending. The age of cooperation begins." The response was overwhelming. Planetary defense forces turned on their Imperial overlords. Subjugated species shared intelligence about Imperial military installations. Supply lines that had kept the Empire's war machine running for centuries now served to hasten its collapse. On a dozen worlds, scenes of celebration erupted as Earth's ships appeared in orbit. Species that had been enemies under Imperial rule now worked together, united by the promise of freedom. The Empire's strategy of keeping its subjects divided and weak crumbled in the face of humanity's offer of unity and strength. Minister Jin watched his king's face as more reports arrived. The proud ruler who had mocked Earth before the Galactic Assembly was gone, replaced by a man who finally understood the magnitude of his mistake. The Archerist Defense Fleet has joined the humans, Jin said quietly. Their admiral says they will no longer serve an empire that brings only suffering to its people. In her flagship, Admiral Park reviewed the strategic display showing the empire's collapsing borders. Humanity's hidden fleet had grown stronger with each victory, augmented by ships and crews from liberated worlds. What had begun as a response to mockery had become a revolution. "Send word to Earth Command," she ordered. "The next phase can begin. It's time to move on the capital itself." The message spread across the stars. Earth was coming. Not as conquerors, not as oppressors, but as liberators. The empire that had stood for 1,000 years was falling not just to superior technology and tactics, but to an idea that all species deserved to be free. High King Daho stood at his palace window, watching the stars. Somewhere out there, the humans he had mocked were drawing closer, bringing with them the end of everything he had known. His face, once full of arrogant certainty, now showed only fear of the reckoning to come. The capital world of the stellar empire shimmered like a jewel against the darkness of space. Its orbital defense rings, once considered impregnable, now faced the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history. Earth's ships, joined by vessels from 24 liberated worlds, took position in a perfect sphere around the planet. High King Daho stood in his palace's observation dome, watching his world's last sunset as a free planet. Minister Jin stood silently beside him, both men knowing these were the final hours of an empire that had lasted 1,000 years. "The outer defense ring has fallen," an aide reported, his voice trembling. "Earth's ships, they didn't destroy it. They just turned it off somehow." Admiral Park stood on the bridge of the TSS Thunderbird, coordinating the final assault. The combined fleet moved with precision that spoke of countless hours of planning and preparation. Earth had waited decades for this moment, and nothing was left to chance. "All ships, execute final approach," Park commanded. "Remember, minimal casualties. We're here to end an empire, not destroy a civilization." The battle began at dawn on the capital world. Earth's ships slipped through defenses that had been considered unbeatable, their advanced technology making mockery of Imperial security systems. One by one, the planet's defensive installations fell silent. "They're inside the inner ring," someone shouted in the palace command center. "How?" "The codes change every second. It's impossible to." "Not impossible," Minister Jin said quietly, "just beyond what we thought they could do." As always, High King Daho watched as his last fleet made its final stand. Imperial ships fought bravely, but they were hopelessly outmatched. Earth's vessels seemed to predict their every move, countering tactics that had won 1,000 battles with ease. The second day brought the fall of the orbital platforms. Earth's forces, now joined by ships from the liberated worlds, moved with surgical precision. They disabled rather than destroyed, captured rather than killed, showing a level of control that made their victory even more impressive. "Your Majesty," Minister Jin said softly, "perhaps it's time to consider." "No." Daho's voice cracked with strain. "I will not surrender to primitives. I would rather." The palace shook as something massive detonated nearby. Through the observation dome, they could see Earth's ships entering the atmosphere, their hulls glowing with atmospheric entry, but maintaining perfect formation. The third day began with silence. The orbital defense grid, pride of Imperial engineering, hung dead in space. The last loyal ships had either surrendered or been disabled. Earth's fleet now held absolute control of the skies above the capital. Admiral Park led the final assault personally. Her strike team, composed of both human marines and soldiers from liberated worlds, breached the palace defenses with ease. They moved through halls that had never known the step of foreign boots, their advanced armor making them look like shadows come to life. High King Daho waited in the throne room, sitting upon the seat of power that had dominated known space for centuries. He had changed from his ornate robes into a simple military uniform, as if making one final statement about his empire's martial pride. The doors opened. Admiral Park entered, her armor's stealth systems deactivated to show respect for the historical moment. Behind her, troops secured the vast chamber with professional efficiency. "So," Daho said, his voice hollow, "the primitives have come to claim their prize." Park removed her helmet, revealing a face that showed neither triumph nor mockery. "This didn't have to happen," she said quietly. "You could have been our ally. Instead, you chose to be an example." "An example of what?" Daho demanded, standing from his throne for the last time. "Of why appearances can be deceiving. Of why mockery is the tool of fools. Of why technological advancement without wisdom leads to downfall." Minister Jin stepped forward, his aged face showing relief rather than defeat. "The king surrenders," he announced. "The war is over." As Daho was led away, Park looked around the throne room with its ancient artifacts and symbols of power. In 3 days, Earth had accomplished what no other civilization had managed in 1,000 years. They had broken the empire not through brutality or overwhelming force, but through precision, planning, and the power of offered friendship. "Send word to all worlds," Park commanded. "The empire has fallen. Let the work of building something better begin." Outside the palace, the capital's citizens watched in awe as ships from Earth and the liberated worlds took up protective positions around their planet. The empire that had ruled through force and fear was gone. In its place, a new era was dawning, one built on cooperation and mutual respect. High King Daho, now simply Prisoner Daho, took one last look at his palace as he was escorted to a waiting transport. The mockery he had delivered at the Galactic Assembly seemed a lifetime ago, his words of scorn now ashes in his mouth. Above, Earth's fleet maintained its perfect formation, a testament to the capabilities that had remained hidden for so long. The empire had fallen not to primitives, but to a civilization that had learned the greatest military lesson of all. The most powerful weapon is the one your enemy doesn't know you have. The United Nations Assembly Hall in New York City gleamed under the light of Earth's sun, its walls now adorned with flags from 50 different worlds. 1 year had passed since the fall of the Stellar Empire, and representatives from across the galaxy had gathered for a moment that would reshape history: the signing of the Galactic Concordat. Citizen Daho, once High King of the mightiest empire known to space, stood quietly among the delegates. His simple civilian clothes were a stark contrast to the ornate robes he had worn when mocking Earth before the old Galactic Assembly. His face showed the wisdom that comes only from profound humbling. Admiral Park, now Earth's representative to the new Galactic Council, stood at the podium. The hall fell silent as she began to speak, her words translated simultaneously into dozens of alien languages. 1 year ago, many of you knew Earth only as a primitive world, barely able to reach its own moon. Today, you know us as the power that brought down an empire. But that is not why we have gathered here. She gestured to the walls where, alongside advanced starship designs, hung pictures of Earth's early space programs, chemical rockets, simple satellites, and basic space stations. These images, once used to mock humanity's capabilities, now served a different purpose. We kept our strength hidden not out of fear, but because we wanted to see who would extend a hand in friendship and who would choose mockery. We wanted to know the true nature of our galactic neighbors before revealing our true selves. In the audience, representatives from worlds that had been among the first to welcome Earth's emergence nodded in satisfaction. Their faith in humanity, even when it appeared primitive, had been rewarded with privileged trading status and technological partnerships. The Galactic Concordat we signed today is not a document of human dominion, Park continued. It is a pledge of mutual respect, cooperation, and understanding. We do not seek to replace the empire with another form of control. Instead, we offer partnership. Minister Jin, now representing his homeworld as an independent state, watched his former king's reaction. Daho's face showed not resentment, but understanding. The lesson had been learned at great cost, but it had been learned well. The Concordat itself was displayed on massive screens, a living document that enshrined the rights of all species to self-determination, mutual defense, and fair trade. Earth had used its victory not to dominate, but to build something new. "Let our story be a lesson," Park said, her voice carrying clear emotion. "True strength lies not in boasting, but in wisdom and justice. The measure of a civilization is not in its weapons, but in how it chooses to use its power." The signing ceremony began. One by one, representatives from 50 worlds approached the document. Each signature represented not just a world, but a choice to be part of something greater than empire or conquest. When it was his turn, Citizen Daho walked to the podium. The hall fell silent. He picked up the pen, paused for a moment, and then signed not with his former title, but simply his name. The gesture spoke volumes about the changes the galaxy had undergone. In orbit above Earth, ships from dozens of worlds hung in peaceful formation. Among them were vessels that had once fought each other, now united under the banner of cooperation. Earth's hidden fleet, no longer needing to conceal its capabilities, had been transformed into a peacekeeping force. "The age of empires is over," Park declared as the last signature was added. "The age of partnership begins. Earth extends its hand not in dominion, but in friendship. We have shown you our strength. Now let us show you our wisdom." The assembly erupted in applause. In that moment, the galaxy truly changed. The old order of conquest and subjugation gave way to something new, a federation of equals, bound together by mutual respect and understanding. In the great halls of the new council, those pictures of primitive Earth spacecraft would remain, not as objects of mockery, but as eternal reminders. Never judge by appearances alone, for wisdom often hides behind seeming simplicity. And somewhere in the assembly hall, a former king who had learned this lesson the hard way smiled, finally understanding that true greatness lies not in the power to conquer, but in the wisdom to cooperate. The galaxy had been transformed not by force of arms, but by the revelation that strength without wisdom is empty, and that true power lies not in domination, but in the ability to turn enemies into friends.